Thousand people homeless. You know, the rumor is Mrs. O'Leary actually knocked it over while enjoying a wild romp with the stable boy, but it was easier to blame it on the cow. That was on this date in 1871 in Chicago, Illinois. And now for more of Today in History, we have a double whammy, a special feature from the Associated Press coming up in just a few seconds with their Today in History and this special announcement as well. So here we go.
On October 8, 1793, Governor John Hancock awoke as usual but found it difficult to breathe. Hancock suffered from gout and other maladies, and on his final public appearance on September 18th had been too weak to stand or speak. Those to whom he was closest, his loving wife Dolly and friend Nathaniel Balch, were at his side. A doctor was called, but to no avail. The great signer was dead within the hour. His friend and mentor, acting Governor Samuel Adams, declared the day of Hancock's funeral a state holiday in Massachusetts.
This Day in History brought to you by the Freedom Trail Foundation, partnered with the Massachusetts Teachers Association to bring history to life.
October 8, 1871. Deadly fires scorched the upper Midwest. The Great Chicago Fire killed some 300 people, leaving 90,000 homeless in the Windy City. Even deadlier, the Peshtigo Fire in northeastern Wisconsin claimed some 1,200 to 1,500 lives. Fires also broke out in 3 Michigan communities, Holland, Manistee, and Port Huron. 1982. Poland's government, then under martial law, bans all labor organizations, including the Solidarity Trade Union. But Solidarity survives the crackdown, playing a key part in the fall of communism in Eastern Europe. 1970. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, author and dissident in what's then the Soviet Union, wins the Nobel Prize for Literature. His work chronicles life under the repression and labor camps of Soviet dictator Joseph Stalin. And 1956, Don Larson of the New York Yankees pitches the only perfect game as well as a no-hitter in a World Series to date. That gives the Yankees a 2-0 shutout over the Brooklyn Dodgers in Game 5. Today in History, October 8th. Ross Simpson, The Associated Press.
This is Across Our Wide Missouri with Bob Pretty.
A beauty pageant is held every year in St. Louis. Sometimes you'll hear cynics say the girls are not the most beautiful women you would find in that big city, and that social position more than beauty is an important factor. That would probably be denied by the people who put the event together every year, but they don't really let anybody know who they are. It's the annual Veiled Prophet Ball. It's a major event of the St. Louis Society season. It has its roots in New Orleans. We'll tell the story in a minute.
Hi friends, Joe Haffner here. Are you interested in buying, selling, trading, or renting a house? Or maybe you're in the market for buying or selling a car, or perhaps selling or giving away clothes, furniture, or electronics. Well, I can help you out. Just email me, Joe, at Gunther'sHouseOfFriends@gmail.com. That's Gunther'sHouseOfFriends@gmail.com. Email me today with your item and or items, and together we'll come up with a creative way to buy, sell, trade, or rent any reasonable item or service that you want. Keep in mind, though, I don't deal with the exchange of firearms, alcohol items, drugs, or anything illegal or immoral. So send me an email today at Gunther'sHouseOfFriends@gmail.com. Say, friends, are you shopping for a gift to give to that special someone in your life, but are tired of the same old thing that you could get at the local big box store? Then let me suggest to you that you go to www.facebook.com/WishingStarsNativeCreations. At Wishing Stars Native Creations, you'll find unique gift items like dream catchers, necklaces, and bracelets, all handmade, one-of-a-kind pieces. My dear friend Chris Mayer has been making these high-quality, hard-to-find items for years, and she's ready to work with you. So check her out today, www.facebook.com/wishingstars Native Creations. She accepts several forms of payment, including money orders and PayPal.
The Veiled Prophet Ball in St. Louis is not unique or original. New Orleans and Mobile, Alabama had similar events before St. Louis did. But it's one of those events for which, some reason, many Missourians are interested, not all of them rich and not all of them in St. Louis. It's been interrupted a few times for wars, a cyclone in 1927. The parade and the ball have been disrupted from time to time by demonstrators who claimed the event was discriminatory or who wanted to publicize a cause at an event in the public eye, but it continues. On Shrove Tuesday of 1878, a group of St. Louis businessmen was in New Orleans for Mardi Gras. One of them was Charles E. Slayback, a prominent grain broker, a former resident of New Orleans who'd been part of the Mystic crew which sponsors Mardi Gras. He decided something like that had to be done in St. Louis. For more than 2 decades, the Mechanical and Agricultural Fair had been a major event in the fall in St. Louis, but many thought there should be a more lively event. So Slayback approached several New Orleans people asking if their floats could be purchased for use in St. Louis, should such a festival erupt there any time soon. Well, yes, they said, some could be obtained for about $8,000. Slayback returned to St. Louis, wrote notes to about 20 influential businessmen, invited them to a meeting about something of importance to St. Louis, and on March 20th of 1878, the group gathered at the Lindell Hotel in Parlor 22, the first meeting of the Veiled Prophets, the only public meeting the group has ever had. 200 members paid the $25 dues that first summer. The dues were quickly raised to $100. For a number of years, the Veiled Prophets accepted outside contributions for their carnivals, but eventually they quit so that the group could gain better control over the guest list. Secrecy and the membership of the organization are major factors in the group's ability to continue. Father passes on his membership to his son. Candidates for membership are ruled on by a secret committee, and the new member is received directly into the organization. Supposedly, politics and religion have nothing to do with the group. Each year, the prophets crown a queen of love and beauty. There was no such creature at the first Veiled Prophet Ball. The Grand Oracle chose as his partner Miss Suzanne Slayback, the niece of Charles Slayback, and the daughter of the man who suggested the name of the organization, Alonzo William Slayback. She was 16, and the newspapers did not mention her name until 7 years later. But since 1884, the identity of the queen has been made known. However, the identity of the man who has the first dance is always a mystery. The first queen officially crowned was Miss Hester Bates Laughlin in 1884, but her crown, a replica of the one worn by Queen Victoria, was uncomfortable. It had no headband. It wobbled from ear to ear because it just fastened into her hair. The first parade was a near riot. Lighted by gaslights, torches, lanterns, and flares, buildings along the way were lighted with Japanese lanterns which caught fire in the breeze and fell to the street, where little boys dashed to stomp them out. At the starting place, 12th and Washington, the crowd was packed around the large shed where 17 floats had been assembled depicting the theme, the tale of the world's advancement. The crowd was so packed the policemen rode their horses 12 abreast to clear a path. The performance of Rip Van Winkle at the Olympic Theater was interrupted for more than a half hour, so those attending the play could go outside and watch the parade go by. The only tragedy the whole night was when an awning collapsed from the weight of spectators who'd climbed on top of it. A man underneath was hurt, but not that badly. The Veiled Prophet Ball held for the first time on this date, the 8th of October, in 1878.
Money in politics at the U.S. Supreme Court today.
Investing, renting, sending your kid to college? Listen to the Marketplace Money podcast. Find it on iTunes or at marketplace.org/podcasts.
From APM in New York, I'm David Brancaccio. The global perspective on business and economics in a moment, but first, the U.S. Supreme Court today hears arguments in a campaign finance dispute that's seen as the sequel to Citizens United. That's the blockbuster case that allowed unlimited political spending by corporations and labor unions. This time, it's about money from individuals. Kate Davidson reports.
The title is McCutcheon versus Federal Election Commission. The main character, Sean McCutcheon, is an Alabama businessman out to buck the system. He wants to eliminate the $123,000 cap on how much he can give federal candidates and political committees every 2 years.
This is a very important First Amendment fundamental free speech case. It's about your right to spend your money however you choose on as many candidates as you choose.
McCutcheon isn't contesting the base limit on how much you can give a single candidate, but he does want to fund more of them. Still, Tara Malloy with the Campaign Legal Center says if the justices question not just overall limits, but all contribution limits, we could see
a sort of bombshell decision that would probably revolutionize how our elections are funded and, by extension, who wields power over our candidates and elected officials.
It's the corruptive potential of that power that's sure to be debated today. I'm Kate Davidson for Marketplace.
At the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in Bali today, leaders of nearly 24 countries are talking freer trade and bringing more stability to the global economy. The BBC's John Sudworth has been following the meeting. John, good morning.
Good morning, David.
Which way do Asian leaders think this global economy is going here as we get into the waning months of 2013?
At the APEC summit focused on the Asian economy, the big issue in town is China. Xi Jinping has been left with a bit of a starring role at this summit because of the notable absence of the US president. And the one thing he's been very keen to reassure other leaders is that Chinese economy, although slowing, still remains on track, he says. And although he admits it's a carefully balanced process, he has taken to the APEC summit a message of reassurance. And I think it's one that's been fairly well received because, of course, if, as many people say, if China sneezes, the rest of Asia catches a cold.
And perhaps the rest of the world economy. Now, as you say, President Obama could not make it to the meeting, had to stay home to continue glaring at his political opposition as they glared back. The budget and debt mess, has that shown up on the radar of other leaders from the Asia-Pacific?
I think there's some bemusement about the political shutdown, but I think the focus going forward is on the possibility of that debt default and an economic shutdown, and real concern about that. China has been making its anxiety known. Japan has also. Both countries, of course, have their own interests in that both of them hold US bonds, which could potentially, of course, see their value fall if that economic crisis isn't averted.
The BBC's John Sudworth in Shanghai. John, thank you.
It's a pleasure, David.
Checking the numbers now, the FT 100 index in London is down 7%. The key stock index in Hong Kong went up 0.9%. Index futures in the U.S. are up just slightly. And here's a number. Malaria kills nearly 700,000 people every year, many of them little kids. New data presented in South Africa today suggests a new GlaxoSmithKline vaccine cuts cases of malaria in children in half. If regulators approve, the vaccine could be on the market by 2015. Among the ongoing concerns, evidence malaria protection from the shots seems to wear off over time.
Looking for a good read? Visit the Big Book blog at marketplace.org. Listen to author interviews and read excerpts from the Marketplace bookshelf. Online at marketplace.org/thebigbook.
In my sad little life, I don't get to see many crisp $100 bills, but if you are the sort of high roller used to peeling off Benjamins, please note the new ones are being fed into the economy starting today. And don't freak out, but they look a little weird. Marketplace's Adrian Hill joins me. Morning, Adrian.
Good morning, David.
So first off, how does it look different? I still got my double BF, my best friend, Ben Franklin.
You do. You can still call them your Benjamins, David. You're safe there. They're basically more colorful. They're more security features. The idea here is that it's going to be harder to counterfeit these guys.
But how do you make sure that cashiers don't dial Secret Service when you bring these things in thinking you knocked them up on Photoshop?
Yeah, and that's the real trick here. We're all used to the old bills. We know how they sort of feel in our hands, what they look like. And so you've got to make sure that cashiers and casino workers, people who work at banks, really anyone who comes in contact with these knows what to look for. You don't want them calling Secret Service or grabbing the cash and saying this is counterfeit. To help stop that